who knows? That's just getting to know your kid is I think huge too.
I'm glad we're talking about this today, the proper way to coach your kids, episode 21, because right now, Jalen Hurts, quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, is lighting the world on fire. And for those who don't know, his father coached him when he was in high school in Texas. And it got me thinking when I was doing preparation for this episode, Cass, I was thinking, maybe it's better if you coach your kids, male and female, if you coach your kids later on in life when they're
Mm.
in maybe middle school, when they're in high school. Again, you walk that fine line of the favoritism and the reasons, the motives behind why you're coaching your kids at an older age. But I think the kids are more mature and at that point maybe more receptive rather than when they're 9, 10, 11 years old and don't fully have that mental capacity yet to understand the approach you're trying to take in coaching your kids and make them better.
Yeah, and I think that's what's hard too is not, because that right here's another fine line. Should you actually be coaching if you're older? Like, are you just coaching because
Yeah.
you are a dad or a mom, or are you coaching because you actually have an idea of how a coach can impact an athlete? And
What you're talking about. Yeah, you know what you're
yeah,
talking about.
exactly. But what's so hard is like, okay, well, who else are you going to get to commit to that many hours of volunteer work or doing whatever it may be? So it's definitely not an easy job. I'm not saying this is like, hey, this is the easiest thing on the planet. But what I can tell is like, anytime I saw a kid who had this really good relationship with their parent, who was also their coach, it was almost like I paid extra special attention. And I would joke, I'd be like, I almost want to interview you and I want to know what you did and what worked and what didn't work. And it was just such
Yeah.
a mutual respect. It was such a, I'm not expecting anything from you. I love you unconditionally, regardless of how you play. And now we can have a relationship that has different hats. And I think when that foundation and that base was taken care of, it was very easy for the parent to hold the kid accountable. It was very easy for other parents to realize, again, this coach respects all athletes. It's nobody was bickering like, oh, she's playing because it's the coach's daughter, or coach's, he's playing because it's his son. I think developing that foundation, developing that mutual respect, and that has to lead to so many healthier conversations, healthier relationships later on down the line.
So when you talk about saying to a kid, "Hey, I'd love you no matter what," that's part of empowering the athlete, right?
Mhm.
And kind of understanding where they're coming from, empowering them, and not just using the old, cliches, do this, do that, getting them to understand why you're telling them to do such a thing, and in case in turn you're empowering them.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, and again, I'll bring up Coach Murphy probably every other week, just because
He was
he
a
does a
guest
lot of cool things.
co-host. That's okay.
There you go. So he started this really cool thing a couple of years ago with the program where he would call up the parent and he'd say, "Hey, we have our senior meetings. I'm going to call you at 5 o'clock, and we're going to put you on speaker in the team room, and you're going to talk to Kaylee Tao, and you're going to tell her how much you appreciate her and whatever else, and anything you want to say." And it was a voice recording or a letter written, but whatever it was. But they'd get the dad on the phone, and the dad would just be like, "Kaylee, like, I can't tell you how much I've loved coaching you at your entire life, how proud I am to watch you, blah, blah, blah." And it was it's funny because the parent is like, well, of course my daughter knows that. But the daughter's like, well, I've never heard him say this, And it's like everyone's crying in the room. It's this big emotional moment, whatever it is. And it's just providing that opportunity, providing that platform to say that, because again, it's so easy for a parent to be like, well, of course my kid knows I love them, but maybe they don't, and maybe they haven't heard it and they need to hear it. I just think that was one of the coolest things that program started doing. And I know he got it from another program too. So again, an opportunity to voice how you feel to your athlete, I think is huge too.
Where in the world is Patrick Murphy this weekend? He's in Wisconsin. What I saw
Yeah.
on
Yeah, he's
Instagram.
all over.
It's no wonder though that he's so successful as a head coach, and he's had so much success and a very deep and enriching type resume
Mhm.
when it comes to his coaching career, because he comes up with these. And I know you mentioned that he didn't really come up with that idea, but he understands which ideas to filter through and take for his program that could
Mhm.
really help. And it's again an out of the box type idea that's good
Right.
for his athletes. I mean, there's a lot more to coaching than the proverbial X's and O's,
Right.
obviously. And I
Right.
think if there's anybody that understands that the most, it's Patrick Murphy.
Mike Candrea, he coached at Arizona for years. He just retired, I think, 1 or 2 years ago. And he has this quote where he says, guys have to play good in order to feel good, or girls have to feel good in order to play good. And the quote always used to get me a little bit, because I'm pretty sure the grammatically correct way is to say they have to play well in order to,
Yeah. It's like using two and two and two in the right context.
Exactly. But I think, again, that's like when you have a dad who's coaching a daughter. The dad has grown up probably playing baseball, let's say, has his entire life had to play well in order to feel good about how he is doing, and maybe doesn't understand the translation. Well, my daughter needs to actually feel really good before she can start to play well. And that might be the biggest communication gap sometimes, in that, where it does matter. And people might roll their eyes that like a girl needs to have her hair done before a game, but like, you know what, if her hair is done, she's going to feel that much more confident in it for whatever reason. And it's just, again, it's having that conversation. It's real, genuine, honest conversations with your kids, just like a really good coach would do with their athlete. That shouldn't be much different.